Deep in the ocean, far deeper than anyone had explored, was an enormous ocean kingdom. Jellyfish and giant whales, cheerful dolphins, fish with all the colors of the rainbow. And amidst all that color, at the bottom of the ocean, was the deep sea kingdom. It was so deep in the ocean that it was out of sight of everyone else in the world. In the deep sea kingdom, the sea people lived in peace with all the other deep sea creatures. The king of the seas lived in the deep sea castle with his mother and 6 daughters. The king of the seas loved his daughters very much. He had seen human men do wicked things, and the nearby kingdoms were not friendly to his kingdom. So he made strict rules to protect his daughters from being harmed.
The humans living above the sea cannot be trusted.
Daddy, why don't they like us?
Asked the little mermaid.
Because I said so. They hunt our fish friends and have no respect for our underwater kingdom.
The king's youngest daughter, the little mermaid, was very curious about the life on the land, especially humans. Her sisters told stories about the humans and what they had seen beyond the sea gate, and that made her even more curious. The little mermaid's grandmother warned her about the humans all the time and reminded her that she could only go out of the sea gate when she earned her crown and grew as old as her sisters. The little mermaid often watched her sisters swim out the sea gate and explore the ocean, so she began to make a secret plan to go out the sea gate. She knew the whale named Himram could leave the deep sea kingdom whenever he wanted, so she and her dolphin friend went to see him. She told her plan to Himram. At first, the great whale did not think it was a good idea, but the little mermaid promised she would not get hurt and pestered him so much that he agreed to sneak her out of the gate. The big blue whale and the dolphin swam to the gate, and the guards opened the door for them. When they were out of sight, Himram the whale opened his giant mouth, and the little mermaid swam out. The little mermaid swam above the deep sea kingdom and was excited to see new things. When she reached the top of the ocean, she felt the waves and the ocean breeze and saw the blue skies for the very first time.
Marvelous!
Then, in the distance, the little mermaid heard some music. She looked around and saw the ship beyond the waves. It was her first time seeing a ship.
This is a ship, right? Let's go.
Her friend the dolphin warned her not to go, but she was already out of sight. The little mermaid swam quickly towards the ship. The ship belonged to the king. The king was having a birthday party for his son, Prince Mark. He wanted his son to get married, so he had invited all the eligible princesses from other kingdoms onto the boat.
He's a prince,
warned the dolphin. The little mermaid could see the prince as he walked on the deck of the ship and took out a flute. She loved the sound of it and began to sing along with the melody. The prince heard her lovely voice and started to look around. Warned the dolphin. The little mermaid jumped back into the water and hid beneath the waves. What the little mermaid did not know was that she was being watched. Deep in the sea was an evil sea witch watching for someone to break the rules. She saw the little mermaid through her crystal ball.
Yes, the day has finally come. The daughter of the king of the seas has sneaked out to find a human. Let the waves and winds and storms rise with thunder and lightning all over.
The sea witch's evil power instantly hit the boat with a terrible storm. The king's ship started to drift toward the rocks. The little mermaid was very worried when she saw the drifting ship in the storm.
This storm has broken the ship. It's going to sink. We have to help them.
The little mermaid dove in the water right after the ship. Swimming through the shipwreck, she found the flute that the prince was playing. Then she saw the prince, who was sinking deeper and deeper. She immediately pulled him out of the water and brought him to shore.
Wake up, please.
The prince slowly regained his consciousness and opened his eyes.
He's alive.
Hearing dogs barking from a distance, she suddenly realized that she wasn't in the water at all and jumped back into the water, leaving the prince on the shore. The king had already been rescued and sent his servants out to search for his son.
A girl saved me from drowning. I don't know where she came from, but her voice was so beautiful. Did anyone else make it?
The little mermaid swam back to the deep sea kingdom and sneaked back into the castle. She still had the prince's flute in her hand, and she hoped he was okay. Just then, her father, the king of the seas, came in and saw the flute in the little mermaid's hand. He had heard what his daughter had done and knew that the flute must belong to a human.
We have rules in order to keep the kingdom safe. Everyone must obey. Is it true that you have saved a human from drowning?
I had to. If I hadn't, he would have drowned,
answered back the little mermaid.
Enough. Humans cannot be trusted. You are never to speak to a human again, and you must never leave the deep sea kingdom.
The king was very upset and left the room, but the little mermaid still wanted to go see the prince again on dry land. So she made a terrible decision. She went to Naga, the sea witch, and asked her to use her magic to help her see the prince again. Naga agreed to help, but in return, she wanted something back. Something very valuable.
I will prepare a mixture that will turn you into a human. But, in return, you will give me your beautiful voice.
My voice? But how would that work?
The little mermaid was intent on seeing the prince again, so she agreed to the sea witch's terms.
Oh, and one more thing. At the end of the third day, with the fourth sunrise, the prince must fall in love with you. Otherwise, you'll return to being a mermaid and forget the prince forever.
The little mermaid was foolish and did not think of the consequences, so she drank the potion. The little mermaid started to swim to the surface, but as she swam, her tail started to disappear and magically change into 2 legs. She couldn't swim well with legs, but her friend the dolphin helped her to shore. The prince, at his castle, was looking out to sea, and then he noticed the little mermaid, who looked like a beautiful red-headed girl stumbling in the sand. He caught her as she was falling over.
You. Have we met before?
The little mermaid could not talk, but she handed the flute to the prince.
We have.
The prince was surprised to see his flute and played his favorite tune. The little mermaid nodded her head to tell him that she recognizes the tune from before. The prince was sure that she was the girl who had saved him, but he couldn't understand why she wasn't speaking. The girl, he remembered, could swim quite well and had a beautiful voice.
I saw you when I was playing this tune on the deck. I heard your voice, and then you saved me from drowning.
The little mermaid tried to talk, but she did not have a voice. Because she could not speak, the prince began to doubt that this was the girl who had saved him. But he felt sorry for her and decided to help. The prince took the little mermaid to his castle, where she overheard the king speaking to him.
Enough about mermaids. It is time for you to choose a bride. You will marry one of the princesses within a month. I have ordered preparations for the wedding to begin.
The little mermaid could only watch, but because she could not speak, there was nothing she could do to convince the prince to fall in love with her. She remembered the witch's words.
Don't forget, at the end of the 3rd day with the 4th sunrise, the prince must fall in love with you. Otherwise, you will return to being a mermaid and forget the prince forever.
The days went by so quickly. On the last day, the king and the queen chose a princess from the neighboring kingdom and decided to have the wedding at sea on their new ship. The little mermaid could not explain to the prince that indeed she was the mermaid he was looking for. He didn't want to marry the princess from the other kingdom, but he had not been able to find the woman who had saved him from drowning. The little mermaid was weeping silently. She had no voice to call for help and could not swim back to her family. She missed them. And when she looked out at the ocean waves that used to be her home, she saw familiar faces in the water. Her mermaid sisters had come to help her.
My dear grandchild, we are here to undo the sea witch's curse. You were very foolish to make a deal with her.
And finally, the king of the seas came out of the water. His heart was sad that she had run away, but glad that he had found her. He had been watching the prince the last few days and told his daughter,
My dear daughter, I misjudged the prince at first because of other wicked men, but now I see that he loves you.
The grandmother had the seashell which held the little mermaid's voice. They had saved it from the sea witch. The king of the seas used his trident to release her voice and restore it to her.
My voice! Thank you, grandmother. Thank you, daddy. I love you all so very much.
With the whale's help, they swam to the prince's ship as fast as they could. As the prince and the princess were approaching the altar to say their vows, the prince suddenly stopped. He could hear the little mermaid's beautiful voice. When he saw the little mermaid coming towards him on a whale, without any hesitation, he jumped in the sea. The kings of both kingdoms made peace and became friends. The prince got to meet the king of the sea and his mother and all the little mermaid's sisters.
I knew it was you.
Eventually, the little mermaid fell in love and married the prince. And they continued the peace, love, and friendship of both of their kingdoms, on both land and in the sea. The end.